This happened to me, my girlfriend Sophie, and our friend Tyler during a camping trip in Vermont last fall. We picked a small, quiet campsite deep in the woods. Not an official one, just a clearing we found off a dirt road. We arrived late in the day, set up our 2 tents, one for me and Sophie and one for Tyler, and made dinner over a small fire. It was peaceful. The only sounds were crickets and wind through the trees. Around 11 p.m., we decided to call it a night. We put out the fire and got into our tents. I remember zipping ours shut and laying there with Sophie, just listening to the stillness. Then, around midnight, I woke up to a sound. It was faint, but clear. Zipe, like someone slowly unzipping a tent. I assumed it was Tyler getting out to pee, so I closed my eyes again. But then I realized something. The sound wasn't coming from his tent. It was coming from next to ours. Our tent was near a thick cluster of trees, no room to set anything up there. But the zipper noise had definitely come from just a few feet away. I whispered to Sophie, "Did you hear that?" She nodded. That wasn't Tyler. I slowly unzipped our tent and poked my head out. That's when I saw it. Another tent, right next to ours. I froze. It hadn't been there when we went to sleep. I was sure of it. It was dark green, older looking, and set up awkwardly, like it had been thrown together in a hurry. No fire, no lantern, just there. I leaned over to check on Tyler's tent. His light was still on, and I saw his shadow move. So he was awake too. I called out softly, "Tyler, did you see that tent?" He unzipped and looked out. His face went pale. He whispered, "That wasn't there before." We all sat there, whispering back and forth, trying to make sense of it. Then we heard movement from inside the mystery tent, shuffling, breathing, but no voice. Sophie whispered, "What do we do?" I didn't know. We didn't want to provoke anyone. It could have been a hunter, or a lost hiker. But who sets up camp in the middle of the night, just feet from other people's tents, without saying a word? We turned off all our lights and stayed still. Around 3 a.m., I peeked again. The tent was still there, but now it looked flatter, like it had collapsed slightly. That's when I noticed something worse. There were no footprints. None around the tent, none in the soft dirt between our tents. Just nothing, as if it had appeared out of nowhere. We couldn't sleep after that. When the sun finally came up, we got out carefully. The 3 of us walked over to the tent together and froze. It was empty. No sleeping bag, no supplies, no food. Just an old stained tarp used as the floor. And in the center, a single Polaroid photo. I picked it up. It was a picture of 3 tents in the woods, 2 modern ones, and 1 old green one, off to the side, just like ours. We packed up and left within 20 minutes. None of us said much on the way home. I still have the photo. I don't know why I kept it, but sometimes I pull it out and stare at it, wondering who took it, and more importantly, when. This happened to me 2 years ago, in the fall. I was 23 at the time, and had gone on a solo hiking trip to clear my head after a rough breakup. I picked a state forest in Pennsylvania, not too remote, but quiet enough. The trail I chose was long, winding, and lightly used, especially during the colder months. I planned to hike 6 miles in, camp for the night, then hike back out in the morning. Simple. The first part of the hike was peaceful. The leaves were turning orange and red, and I could hear nothing but the wind rustling through the trees and the occasional crunch of a squirrel darting through the brush. About 3 hours in, I realized I hadn't seen another person since the parking lot. That was a little strange, but I told myself it was just the season. Most people didn't camp this time of year. When I finally found a flat spot to set up camp, it was close to a creek, maybe 50 feet off the trail. I pitched my small tent and built a little fire. As it got dark, I started to feel off. It's hard to explain. The forest got quiet. Too quiet. No birds. No wind. Even the creek sounded muffled, like I was hearing it through a wall. I shrugged it off and tried to relax. I roasted a hot dog and watched the fire burn down. Around 10 p.m., I crawled into my tent and zipped it shut. That's when I heard footsteps, slow, crunching leaves. I froze. They were coming from the direction of the trail. My first thought was, maybe it was a deer. But these were two-legged steps. Human. They stopped maybe 10 feet from my tent. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just lay there, staring at the thin nylon wall in front of my face, trying to convince myself it was all in my head. Then I heard a voice, a man's voice. He said, "Where'd you go?" Soft, calm, like he was talking to someone just out of view. I sat up slowly, careful not to make a sound. I grabbed my pocket knife, not much, but it was all I had. I was debating whether to yell, run, or just stay still. Then I heard bare feet moving closer. The sound was unmistakable, skin slapping softly against dirt and leaves. He walked in a slow circle around my tent. Once. Twice. Then nothing. I waited, gripping the knife, for what felt like hours. But eventually, I must have dozed off. When I woke up, the sun was just coming up. Everything looked normal, calm, like nothing had happened. But when I stepped out of my tent, I found bare footprints in the dirt. They were adult-sized. They led from the trail straight to my tent, then around it, and off into the trees. I followed them for about 30 feet before they vanished into the underbrush. There were no shoe prints, just bare feet. I packed up in 15 minutes and practically ran the whole 6 miles back to my car. I don't know who he was or what he wanted. I didn't tell the park ranger. I didn't call the cops. What would I even say? All I know is, sometimes at night, when everything goes quiet, I still hear him say, "Where'd you go?" This happened to me and my friend Mason about a year ago. We were both 20, and we'd gone on a weekend camping trip in upstate New York, near the Adirondacks. We weren't hardcore hikers or anything, just wanted to get away for a bit. We set up camp about 1.5 miles from the main parking lot. Not super deep in, but far enough that it felt quiet. Peaceful. At first, we spent the day fishing, cooking over the fire, just enjoying the break from everything. No cell signal, which honestly felt kind of nice. Around 9 p.m., we were sitting by the fire just talking. It was chilly, but the flames were keeping us warm. That's when we heard it, a whistle. Just 2 notes, high, low. We both stopped talking and looked at each other. Mason said, "Was that you?" It wasn't. I shrugged it off, thinking maybe it was wind blowing through the trees or something. Then it came again. Same 2 notes, high, low. But this time, it was closer. Now, we were the only people out there, at least as far as we knew. No other cars in the lot, and we hadn't seen anyone all day, maybe a bird, I suggested, but even I didn't believe it. We stood up and shined our flashlights around the trees. Nothing. Just darkness and tall pines. Then it whistled again. Right behind us. We spun around fast. Nothing there. No crunching of leaves. No footsteps. Just silence. At this point, we were both on edge. Mason grabbed the hatchet we'd used for firewood, and I took my flashlight and a steak knife from our cooking kit. We decided to stay up and keep watch. Around 1 a.m., the fire was low, and we were both tired but still too creeped out to sleep. That's when we heard a third whistle. But this time, it came from two directions at once. Same two notes. High. Low. But one was behind us, and the other was ahead. Like we were being boxed in. We didn't wait. We threw our stuff in our bags, ditched the tent, and started walking back to the car with flashlights on full beam. The trail back felt like it had doubled in length. The woods were pitch black, and every time we paused, we heard the whistle. Always the same. Always just far enough away that we couldn't see anything. At one point, Mason whispered, "I think someone's following us." I turned around and I swear I saw a shape step behind a tree. We kept walking, faster now. Every branch snapping made us jump. The wind through the trees started to sound like whispering. The whistle followed us all the way to the lot. When we finally reached the car, Mason turned to take one last look. I didn't want to, but I did anyway. We both saw it. A figure, standing at the edge of the trail, not moving, just watching, and barefoot. We got in and drove. Didn't say a word until we hit the highway. Later I looked it up. That two-note, whistle. Some people say it's a signal used by criminals in the woods. Some say it's just hikers. Others think it's people who live off-grid and don't want to be found. I don't know what we heard out there. But sometimes, late at night, when I take walks alone, I swear I still hear it. High, low. This happened to me and my cousin Eli back in 2019. We were 18 and had gone on a weekend hike in a national forest in Oregon. We weren't strangers to the outdoors. We'd both grown up camping and had done a bunch of hikes before. But this one was different. We planned a simple overnight trip. Just a loop trail that circled a lake, with a camp spot halfway in. The day started off normal, sunny, quiet, and calm. But by the time we were 2 hours in, a thick fog started rolling in. It wasn't in the forecast. 1 second it was clear. The next we couldn't see 10 feet in front of us. Eli laughed at first. Said it made the woods look like a horror movie. I laughed too, but deep down, something about it made me uneasy. Fog has a way of muting everything, like wrapping the world in a heavy blanket. We kept walking, relying on trail markers, but soon those disappeared too. Trees started looking the same. Even our compass didn't feel reliable. We figured we'd just backtrack and find a spot to camp until it cleared. That's when we heard it. A voice. Faint, like it was coming through the fog. Hello? It didn't sound scared or panicked, just curious, but too far away to tell exactly where from. We stopped. Eli called out, "Hey, you lost too?" No answer. Just the echo of his own voice bouncing back. Then, a minute later, we heard it again. Closer this time. Hello? Same tone, same word. But no footsteps. No sign of a person. Just that voice floating in the mist. I whispered, "Something's not right." Eli agreed. We picked a direction, any direction, and started walking faster. The fog got thicker. Every few minutes we'd hear cracking branches like someone following us just out of sight. We kept looking back but saw nothing. Then, clear as day, a voice behind us said, "Wrong way." It was calm. Too calm. We spun around. Nobody. Just a wall of white. We didn't speak. We just ran. Our breathing echoed weird in the fog, like the trees were closing in on us. I kept hearing what sounded like multiple footsteps just behind me. But when I stopped, they stopped too. After maybe 15 minutes of running blind, we came across a small clearing. The fog was thinner there. We caught our breath. Then Eli went pale. He pointed to a tree. Nailed into it was an old rusted sign, "Do not enter, private land." We hadn't seen that on the way in. Then we noticed something else. The woods were completely silent. No birds, no wind, not even the buzzing of bugs, just quiet. That's when we heard the voice again, right at the edge of the clearing. "Found you." I turned so fast I almost fell, but again, no one. We didn't wait. We took off, crashing through brush, ignoring the trail, just moving. Eventually, the fog began to break. The trees started to thin out. And finally, after what felt like hours, we stumbled back onto a dirt road. We never found the trail again. We followed that road until we hit a small ranger station. Told the ranger we'd gotten turned around. We didn't mention the voice. Later, back home, I tried to look up if others had weird experiences in that forest. I found a post on an old forum from 2006. Someone talking about disembodied voices in the fog near the same area. No resolution. No explanation. I don't know who or what we heard that day. Maybe it was someone messing with us. Maybe it was something else. All I know is, I'll never go hiking in the fog again. Because I still remember that voice. Soft, close, and final. Found you. This happened when I was 22. I had just gone through a breakup and needed space, so I went solo camping in a quiet forest area in northern Pennsylvania. It was late October, chilly, but not snowing yet. I thought some alone time in nature would help clear my head. I drove out Friday morning and hiked a few miles off the trail to set up camp. No cell signal out there, which I expected. I brought enough food and water for 3 days. The first day was peaceful. I spent it gathering firewood, reading, and walking around. By sunset, I was back at my tent, cooking dinner over the fire. As night fell, the trees turned into black walls, and the silence became heavy. That's when I noticed something strange. As I sat by the fire, I kept feeling like I was being watched. You know that weird itch on the back of your neck? That's exactly how it felt. At first, I brushed it off, just my nerves. But when I stood up to stretch and looked around, I thought I saw movement, just beyond the tree line. A dark figure, standing still. I froze. It wasn't an animal. It was too tall, too still. I grabbed my flashlight and pointed it toward the spot. But by the time the beam hit the trees, there was nothing there. I sat down again, trying to calm myself, told myself it was a shadow, a trick of the firelight. But an hour later, when I got into my tent, I heard crunching leaves, soft, slow steps, moving around my camp. I didn't move, just laid there, holding my breath. Then came the sound of sniffing, right outside my tent. Not loud, aggressive sniffing, just small, slow inhales, like someone was quietly trying to smell what was inside. I stayed frozen, my heart pounding so loud I thought it would give me away. Eventually, it stopped. No footsteps, leaving, no voice, just nothing. I didn't sleep that night. In the morning, I found footprints outside my tent. Bare footprints, no shoes, no socks, just dirty, adult-sized prints circling my tent, at least 4 full loops. I packed everything up in record time. But to get back to my car, I had to hike a few miles. The whole way out, I kept checking behind me. And right when I was about 20 minutes from the car, I turned around one last time, and I saw him. A man, standing still, just inside the trees, naked from the waist up, pale skin. And the way he stood, rigid, arms to his sides, it didn't look right, like he hadn't moved in hours. I didn't run. I just walked as fast as I could, eyes forward, trying not to look back again. I made it to my car, locked the doors, and didn't breathe easy until I was back on the highway. I told the park rangers. They took my report, but said it was probably a vagrant or someone off their meds. Maybe. But something about that man, the way he didn't blink, the way he was so still, and the bare feet in the freezing woods, it didn't feel like a person. It felt like something pretending to be one. I haven't been camping alone since, and I never will again.